Hello, welcome back tuning in to today's video, doing JMA Friday. As always, on a Friday, we're having a look at the weather for the month ahead, and this is going to take us pretty much to the end of July. So, we're going to be covering the second full month of the summer of 2017 with this update. Been an interesting summer so far because it has been very warm through June, and we had the heat wave, of course, last week. But since then, it's been very unpleasant, really, very wet across many parts of the country, and also really cool as well. We'll see what's going to happen, or what models think are going to happen for the month ahead. So we're going to start off with the JMA, and then we'll have a look at the CFS V2. So we'll begin with the 500 millibar height anomalies from the JMA, from the pole view down. So this is the North Pole just here. The mid-latitudes of the Northern Hemisphere are around here, and the British Isles is just there. On most height anomaly flowcharts, blue will be extrapolating to low pressure and yellow will be extrapolating to high pressure. These are broken down into weekly periods. The first week period taking us from today, the 30th of June, through to the 7th of July. We find we've got below average heights out to the west of the country. The Azores High, which is what gives us our summary weather, if you like, that is centred quite a way to our south. And we're bringing the jet stream across the Atlantic and into the UK, rather like that. So it does look changeable opening to July. You'd expect unsettled weather to be heading in from off the Atlantic at times, particularly so to the north and the west, less so to the south and the east, but all places could get some rain at times there. Now we go through to week 2, and this takes us from the 7th through to the 14th of July, and it still looks unsettled. So below average heights are continuing through the Atlantic into the UK. The jet stream, that continues to run through the Atlantic into the UK and onto Europe as well. We are building the Azores High in towards Spain and Portugal, so we're trying to raise the heights down to the south. But overall, that's still an unsettled pattern, particularly, again, for the northern and western part of the country. Less unsettled for the south and the east. But in the north, that could be really quite unsettled and probably quite cool as well. And then we go through to weeks 3 and 4, and this takes us from the 14th through to the 28th of July, so through into the second part of the month. And we start to see a change then. The area of above average heights is building up across the west of Europe, indicated by those yellow colours. The trough is lifting out and being pushed up towards Greenland and Iceland. That's as the jet stream is rising northwards. So that's an improving picture for the second half of July. I wouldn't get all that carried away and say it's necessarily going to be a heat wave or anything like that, but it is an improving situation there as we're going into the second half of July. It will certainly be turning drier, and as the jet stream rises northwards, it would be turning warmer as well. So in some ways, this month could play out similar to what's happened in June, with a bit of a month of two halves. Quite unsettling in the first half, a lot warmer and drier in the second half, albeit over the last 2 or 3 days it has been quite unpleasantly cold and wet. Let's have a look at the mid-latitude view to see how the temperature and precipitation anomalies are stacking up during the month ahead. So again, we're coming back to week 1, which is the 30th of June to the 7th of July. Above average heights, remember, to the south, high pressure down there. Below average heights to the north and the west, and bringing the jet stream through the country rather like that. Actually, the precipitation anomaly in the weekend isn't perhaps quite as bad as you would have expected, given the height anomaly. So Scotland and Northern Ireland are the most unsettled, but even there, it's only close to average. And for England and Wales, actually, we might be a little bit on the drier than average side. So the height anomaly looked really quite unsettled for the first week of July, but the model is saying that actually it should be generally a little bit on the drier side. So not as bad, perhaps, as you might have thought, looking at those pressure patterns. The temperature anomaly in the week ahead, that is close to average, And I think parts of England and Wales might actually be going a little bit above average there. But let's say close to average temperatures and a little bit on the drier side for precipitation. I don't think that's too bad at all, given the height anomaly that we saw for week 1. Week 2 takes us from the 7th through to the 14th of July. Again, we've got the above average heights to our south, we've got below average heights to the north, and we're bringing the jet stream in across the Atlantic like that. This is a wetter week, so temperature and precipitation anomalies, I should say precipitation anomalies, are looking like this. It's wetter than average there across most parts of the UK. So the second week of July is forecast to be really quite unsettled. Temperature anomalies, they're remaining close to average, significantly warmer than average to our south, but for the UK itself, let's say again, it is more or less around the seasonal normal. Then we go through to weeks 3 and 4, which is the 14th through to the 28th of July, building up the ridge from the south, and the trough is lifting out up to the north and to the west. Precipitation still looks a little bit wetter than average for Scotland, but it's going drier than average for England and Wales. And remember, this might be transitional, so the early part of this period could still perhaps be unsettled, and then we move towards something significantly drier. Temperature anomalies are increasing, I think, so we're going, particularly for England and Wales, warmer than average through this period, nearer normal further to the north. I think within the JMA, there's definitely a trend here to be turning things drier and warmer in the second half of July. The CFS V2 next, so again, these are 500 millibar height anomalies broken down into weekly periods. The first weekly period taking us from the 30th today through to the 6th of July. Below average heights are to our north and to our east. We've got above average heights out to the west, but jet stream coming through rather like that. So it's a little bit different compared to what the JMA is doing, but it does imply fairly coolish start to July, and for the south and southwest probably on the drier side. In the north and the east probably more unsettled. Week 2 is the 7th through to the 13th of July. That has the above average heights to our southwest, below average heights up to the north. Bring the jet stream through rather like that. It's probably cool and unsettled, I would have thought that. The driest weather would be in the southwest, but I think most places, especially so in the north, would be quite cool and unsettled there for week 2. Week 3, this one takes us from the 14th through to the 20th of July. Below average heights to the northeast around Scandinavia, troughing over Scandinavia. A ridge out to the west-southwest, and probably still doing something a bit like that with the jet stream. So this is quite a cool update, I think, from the CFS V2. It's cooler than what the JMA is seeing with the jet stream on a northwest-southeast alignment. And probably not all that unsettled in the west and southwest, but probably more unsettled in the north and the northeast. And then finally, we finish up at week 4, which is the 21st through to 27th of July. And we have above average heights then out to our west, presumably still doing something a bit like that within the 500 millibar flow with the jet stream. So again, that could be on the cool side, I think, and possibly a little bit on the unsettled side as well. So the CFS, not a very good update today. Does look quite cool, and at times, especially so to the north and the east, does look as though it could be a bit unsettled. Temperature anomalies for the week ahead are coming out cooler or colder than average from the 30th of June to the 6th of July, so we have a cool start to July. Week 2 temperature anomalies, they're not as cold, but if anything, they are still on the cooler than average side, especially so for the north. Week 3 temperature anomalies are also coming out cooler than average. It's been a long time since it's had an update like this from the CFS V2. And week 4 rounds it all off. This is 21st through to the 27th of July. Again, it's not as cold as the previous week, but it still is erring, I think, on the cooler side. Now, if this is right, this is going to be very interesting, because it's going to be our first cooler than average month of the year. If this is right, we have a July that's coming out below average, which is quite a bold forecast from the CFS V2 compared to what we've seen so far during the year. Temperature, precipitation anomalies are drier than average in the week ahead, quite significantly so for the south, and then near normal for week 2. So not as wet during week 2 as the JMA, but probably more unsettled. Week 3 precipitation anomalies are close to average, possibly a little bit on the drier than average side, and week 4 precipitation anomalies, again probably close to average, if anything a little bit on the drier than average side. Now, I don't think we've got agreement here between the JMA and the CFS V2, because the JMA, that wants to have a month of 2 halves. The first half is fairly unsettled, not overly cool, but probably average sort of temperatures. And then the second half, I think the JMA is hinting at a warmer and drier second half for July. Whereas the CFS V2, it looks very cool throughout, really, with the jet stream on a northwest-southeast alignment. It means that precipitation signals are quite weak because it's got a ridge just to our west, so it's probably not overly wet, but it is unsettled at times, particularly for the north. But the main thing with the CFS would be the temperatures, because that would deliver us our first colder than average month of the year, just when most of us don't want it, in the middle part of the summer. So, a bit of a split between the two models as to what's going to happen during July. For me, I would think the JMA is probably the most plausible of the two, which is that we have an unsettled first half and quite cool, and then probably a warmer, drier second half. But let's wait and see, and let's not discount the CFS just because it's showing something that we haven't had this year so far, which is a colder than average month. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's getting it wrong. So let's just wait and see. Got weekend forecast coming up tomorrow. Sunday is very interesting because we've got the NAO forecast for the winter of 2017-2018. That's based on sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic Ocean during the month of May. So that's going to be a really interesting video on Sunday. And of course, we'll do JMA Friday again next week. So keep coming back for all the updates. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.